If I had my way, everything would be so nice. This world would be like Paris. No, it would be a paradise. No one would ever have to say, I'm gonna get my wish someday. All one would have to do is say, this is my order, if you may. Welcome to another episode of The School Without Walls. I am Dr. Anthony Hobbs, host and founder of this educational program. My guest today is Minister Janice Scott. I will be talking with her in a few minutes, but before we get to her, I have some reminders. I think it's important to be sure that we keep focused on the major purpose of this program. It's called The School Without Walls because traditionally our education takes place within walls, and that limits us to certain things we have to say and cannot say. But the School Without Walls is open air, it's free. And we feel that without knowledge a people perish. And that is the basic purpose of the institution called the educational institution that was established by the Creator, is to dispense knowledge, and that's truth. And of course, so often as even scholars, we confuse the etymology of words. For example, we confuse sometimes facts with truth. See, a fact is something that man, according to a formula, has proven to be whatsoever. That same fact can be fiction tomorrow. But truth is that which exists whether man knows it or not. So truth is the reality of the Creator. And this is what this program is basically all about. The major objective is to provide education with an emphasis on the achievement of African Americans and finding African Americans that will serve as positive role models for the young African Americans. And as we conclude this portion, we want to always keep in mind that the pastors, in my opinion, are the key leaders in the African Methodist, not the African Methodist, but in the African community. I am African Methodist, that's where that slip of tongue. All ministers play a vital role, have always played a vital role in the culture of African Americans up until the last few decades, since the iPods and media and all those different social media and things have taken over, and it's making us a very disorganized people. So I'm encouraging the preachers to be reminded of the charge you have. You have a charge to keep and a God to glorify. More than a never dying soul to save and fitted for the sky. We have to keep focused on people getting through this world in a peaceful way without robbing, killing, and so forth. And the church is the salvation. So with that, I want to thank you, and I'm going to switch now to my guest, Minister Janice Scott. We're going to talk, Ms. Scott, about my recent trip to Cuba.
Okay.
Since I was a child, I always was intrigued by the islands. I often wondered about that. Sometime I think it might be heritage, because I was told by my daddy that my grandfather came from the islands.
Oh.
And maybe that had something to do with it, but I don't know. I always was intrigued by the islands.
Yes.
And of course, Cuba is the largest of the West Indian islands. My grandfather was a merchant marine, worked with the merchant marines in the islands. He was called a seaman. And of course, that might have something to do with it. But as you know, about 50 years ago, there was a problem between the Americans and the Cubans because of Fidel Castro's overthrowing of the regime that existed prior to that. I didn't make a note of his name, but that was a dictator in charge. See, a lot of people are not aware that Fidel Castro was not the first dictator of Cuba.
Oh, he wasn't?
No, he overthrew a dictator. And of course, I went down there to study to try to get some first-hand information on what was going on.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of propaganda, because I have some knowledge of the history. So I found that the people there were quite content with the state they were in. They loved Fidel Castro. Of course, you know, he is deceased, recently deceased,
Yes.
and his brother Raul is carrying on. And of course, Raul was in the revolution with him. I have some pictures here. I'm going to show these pictures. Randy, can we pick these pictures up here? It'll be right here. I hope the camera got that. Okay, you can hold that one. That was this is a cross section of the citizenry of Cuba. Here's another one. Okay, take a peek at that one. And you notice that we don't have many people that are white looking. The majority of the people of Cuba are mixed now. And
Yes.
African mixture.
Yes.
And of course, this is the type of automobiles that they have been forced to drive because of the embargo for 50 years. And you see so many of these cars back in the, what is it, the 60s? What year? The 60s and the 70 model cars. And they are beautiful cars. But since the Obama administration, that he opened up diplomatic relationship with the nation of Cuba, we are beginning to see a few new cars, especially in government.
Yes.
And government controls much of the industry. You can see taxi cabs, new taxis, but that's a government taxi cab. We have cars like this being taxi cabs too.
Wow.
So we know that's not a government.
Right.
And this is a part of the new order, if you will, the new order under, I say, with the leadership of President Obama, because he opens that up.
Right.
Now, we're going to close out here for a break, and I'll be right back, and I'm going to talk a little bit about a few more of these pictures here. Be back in a few minutes.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you. Getting that college education?
What are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job?
Be like everybody else.
Or will you dare do something different?
Like, be a teacher.
Be my teacher.
Be my teacher.
You could be my teacher.
You got the skills.
The smarts?
Yes, you. You could be the teacher I never forget.
That'd be cool.
Does that corporate job even have recess?
We need more teachers.
We need more great teachers.
Teachers like you.
What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you gonna make of me?
So they say it's a man's world? Well, I don't see anybody's name on it. While they were out doing their thing, we slowly changed all that. We changed all that. Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
Those of you who have just joined us, I'm Dr. Anthony Hobbs, host of this educational program called The School Without Walls. My guest today is Minister Janice Scott, and I'm talking with her and you about my recent trip to Havana, Cuba. And I told her the purpose was educational, and there are a number of things I learned, and we discussed that on the other side, so we will continue. Now here is I'll let you see it, and then I'm going to turn it to the audience, and then I'll turn it back to you. This is an area where I was in residence. And that water you see there, you might say it's a pool, but rather than a pool, it's like a little river, a little artificial river. You can swim all around the place. You don't just jump in the pool and you have a end of the pool there. You can just go swimming, swim by this apartment, go on down by the next apartment, float around by the other apartment, and so forth and so on. And of course, there's a bridge right there that goes over this little water, I'll call it that. And of course, here's a picture of me on the bridge. Nice. That's me, on the bridge. Yours truly, on the bridge there. Any questions you have about anything I've said relating to Cuba?
I think it's very interesting, a very interesting country, and I'm glad things and opportunities are beginning to open up so people can travel in and get a chance to visit and see what's all there.
Right. And another thing that has taken place under Raul, President Raul, they're going in a transition to capitalism, where it was socialism 100% under Fidel Castro. Like the army, the military control, everything. Although the people were not displeased with that, there was a reason for it. I interviewed about a dozen people, and the persons here I've interviewed that's on this sheet, and they said now before Castro, most of them lived like slaves. Wow. Yeah, it was hard to have 3 meals a day. Now that Castro has overthrown the other dictator, and nearly everybody who wants a job is working. Yes. And as you work, you earn money, and you have more than enough to get 3 meals a day. Wow, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Also, what he instituted in this socialism was education. Most of the folks were illiterate 50 years ago because they weren't able to go to these private schools. Yes. Only the elite, and most of the elite were the white Cubans. Those are the ones that control with the support of the United States. Now, once we understand that, we understand why the United States fought so hard to destroy Castro and his socialist government. It wasn't just because he was socialist. He was affecting their pocketbooks because they had investments in Cuba. Right. The white Americans in power. And so he ran those ones to Florida. And once we understand that, we understand why they were so angry with Castro. Right. Because he took their money and divided it among the people. Therefore, they had free education. They were very proud that now nobody's illiterate in Cuba. And you can get the PhD without cost to the individual. MDs, all education is paid for by the government. Wow. See? And also they have they have government insurance. Prior to Castro, those who were sick were just sick. But now they have some of the best doctors in the world because they have all these medical facilities that have been developed in the last 50 years. And they also have subsidy when it comes to the buses. That's good. They don't pay very much to ride the buses. And so they're very pleased with what's going on. And they're even happier that under Raul, President Raul, they're establishing a type of capitalism. Prior to that, everything belonged to the government. Now, with the connection with the President Obama and Raul. President Raul, they have agreed and working toward those persons who want to have a little private business may do so. So you have little stores. Oh, that's good. They have little stores and let's see, restaurants where that money is their money.
Right.
In addition to whatever they might like work at night, like kind of like we do.
Yeah.
I think we have about 2 more minutes here, and
good.
what I want to mention to the public is this. We need to study governments. Socialism, capitalism, communism all have their places. It's not a bad or good. It's depending on the people.
Right.
You see. For example, Karl Marx. You remember the story of Karl Marx?
Yes.
He is the author of the Communist Manifesto. And Karl Marx predicted this, and I've seen it happen. Brother Scooter seen it happen. He said that communism, socialism, and capitalism are coming together like this. Okay? And I've lived long enough to see it. We have 2 minutes, okay. Now, food stamps is not a capitalistic idea.
No, it's not.
It's a socialist idea.
Yes, it is.
But it's taking money from those who have money
Right.
and
Yeah.
sharing it with those who are in need of food.
Right.
That's not bad.
Right.
Okay, you might, as we talk, you might think of another socialistic thing we have here. Now, we have the post office. We don't have to go somewhere and each of us have a method of sending our letters. We collectively send our letters out the world. We've got the best system on earth.
Exactly.
No system of postal system is better than the USA.
It's true.
So that's socialism that comes into that. As another one, can you think of another one that everybody benefits from? Can you think of it, Scooter? It is this social security deal.
Yeah, I was finna say Medicare.
Right?
Yeah, I was finna say Medicare.
Everybody, that's anybody in the United States, when you get a certain need, you get a check.
Yeah,
Whether you worked or not.
exactly.
Now, if you don't work, you don't get as big a check.
Right, but
you
you
get some
something.
money. They call it SSI.
Yes, sir.
But that insurance was started in the 30s by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He started insurance. It's not just a gift, but it's not capitalism. It's socialism. He said, we all put our money, a certain amount of our money together in this insurance policy, and we, the United States government, will match this money. And when you get, well, I believe it was 65 at that time, you could draw money the rest of your life.
Right.
Yeah. I think it might have dropped down to 62 now. Okay, we're going to stop on this and get ready for the final part of this program.
I'm a retired school psychologist, and helping people was my thing.
I was very independent and thought I could take care of myself. I fell, and I had to have Meals on Wheels.
After my stroke, when Meals on Wheels started, I was on the other end of the stick, so to speak.
Meals on Wheels, coming to my door as someone who's housebound, having someone check on me, assures me that I'm not forgotten.
Meals on Wheels has given me a mode of freedom that I wouldn't have otherwise.
We're the clients.
We are the clients.
We are the clients of Meals on Wheels.
America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This text that I'm about to send will cost me my life. Not only my life, but also my brother's life. Sorry, little bro, but I'm running late and I really want to know when the party ends.
Those of you who have just joined us, I'm Dr. Anthony Hobbs, host and founder of this program called The School Without Walls. My guest is Minister Janice Scott. We've been talking about my adventures in Cuba, and we're going to conclude with that. Some of the things that I noticed that was unique compared to the USA, see, they haven't had the experience that the United States citizens have had in marketing. Okay?
Yeah.
When you go to most Hispanic countries, there are vendors everywhere. You know, vendors out selling stuff on the street. Well, in Cuba, they haven't reached that understanding yet. Because, why? For the last 50 years, everything has been controlled by the government, right?
Right.
That would be capitalism if they could have a little stand out there.
Right.
So they're starting that, but they're missing so much money by not really being able to master it. It reminds me of the African American experience. Have you noticed that most people who are of other ethnic groups like Chinese, Koreans, they have shops.
Right.
They're involved in business.
Right.
And most of us are looking for somebody to give us a job.
Always.
That's the experience.
Exactly.
See, that's the
true.
slave experience
That's true.
that's put us to a mental disadvantage.
Right.
Well, that's a setback. We're changing. But you cannot do what your parents didn't know to do.
Right, exactly.
So I saw that in Cuba. But they're beginning to try to have their little businesses. But
That's good.
man, they could have made so much money because we
Exactly.
wanted to buy souvenirs and things, and they didn't have them out
Didn't
there.
have a shop.
You go to Mexico, Cuba, souvenirs everywhere.
Everywhere.
They even making them
Yeah.
themselves. So that was one different. And this is another thing that was interesting. They were trying to copy American style, like the supermarket. I saw a big old sign, supermercado. I said, oh, let's go to the supermarket. Supermercado means supermarket. Oh, I got a supermarket. You know, I see some little stores down. Let's go down to the supermarket. Randy, we went strutting down to the supermarket and walked in there. Didn't see anything out in the market.
Nothing?
Well, they had a whole wall of wine and
Oh my goodness.
and various vegetables,
Yeah.
beverages.
Yeah.
And then they had quite a few crackers, cookies, and they had a little meat counter over there.
Wow.
Well, it was nothing like what I was
Wow.
expecting. A supermarket, you
Right.
can buy anything you want.
Right.
So, and they would sell out before the place was, they would sell out before night.
Wow.
Because they weren't used to
Right.
that extra group of
Exactly.
people coming
Exactly.
in. See, a hotel down there, maybe 400 or 500 people were in there that wouldn't have been there. We would have known how to market for the plan for it.
Right.
That was one difference. And of course, certainly the buildings were old.
Yeah.
Because Western America had blocked building and so forth. But this is what I want us to know about how shrewd Castro was in spite of that. There were some buildings that had been built, huge buildings, hotels. And I inquired, I said, how did this communist regime, how was it able to have these magnificent hotels? He said they were trading with people like Canada, Russia,
Wow.
China. And what he did was, this is smart now, he didn't spend one dime. He said, now what I want to let you invest in my country. If you want this hotel built, you build it, I give you 49% of the profit. He has 51.
Wow.
Didn't put a dime in it.
Wow.
You see?
Wow.
And of course, that is what a lot of Americans are looking at now when they are proud to see Obama's move toward the ability for Americans to invest in Cuba.
Right.
Because we have the money.
Right.
The
Exactly.
Americans have the money.
Exactly.
And the Cubans don't have enough money to do things, but they can invest on a percentage like that
Right.
and make a profit and help Castro too.
Right.
But in nearing the conclusion here today, you perhaps have heard our president, what is his name?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, yeah. President Trump said he's going to destroy everything that
Yes.
I have it right here.
Yes,
He's going to
sir.
destroy, but he said he's going to make something better. That's okay, but he didn't say what the better was.
Exactly. And everybody waiting on the better.
Waiting on the better. But here's what Rodriguez said of a Cuban, he's a Cuban diplomat. He said, Rodriguez said, Cuba has no intention of meeting any of Trump's demands.
Good.
That's not even on their
Agenda. Good.
Like he said, he's going to see that all of the persons who've been in prison be dismissed. That's not his business.
Yeah, he can't do that.
They have to go through trial and
Right,
process.
absolutely.
But he said he ain't about
Yeah,
that.
so, yeah.
And And of course, they're encouraging us to continue the tourist business. And in studying this, I found out that even President Obama does not have any intention of destroying the tourist program.
Right.
You know, that would be detrimental to everybody.
Exactly.
So we can still go to Cuba, but you cannot go to Cuba just like we can go to Chicago.
Right.
You still have to have a justifiable reason
to go.
for going in there.
Yes.
And of course, education is key. If you're for education, you're in there. Of course, business and government, you're in there, but I go in education. And we have about 1 minute. Do you have anything you want to say before we leave this program?
It's very interesting. I'm looking forward to traveling and seeing, and hopefully they'll be able to broaden and expand. And as tourists increase, they'll become, you know, a better people as a whole.
And as both groups.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amalgamate and work together.
Yes.
Okay, Randy, do we have any more time here? We plan to take as many students as we can, not just students, citizens of the community back to Cuba, maybe during the Christmas holiday or during spring break. It's not very expensive, and we can discuss that off air. I don't think we want to talk about charges and stuff here on air, do we, Randy? We don't talk about the charges, but it's not very expensive to go to Cuba. One thing I will say this, Cuba is just like most foreign countries I've been to. If you go to a foreign country, you need to have some American dollars to get out of there.
Exactly. I'm going to take some. I'm going to bring
your credit card won't do it. You got to have some
cash.
Some cash money.
That's good
They
to
charge
know.
you $6 to get out of there.
That's good to know.
And the African nations I went back a while back, they charge you $3. And I've seen folks held up because they didn't have the cash.
Wow.
Check won't do it.
Wow.
Credit card won't do it.
Well,
You
thanks
got to
for
have
that
some American
information.
dollars. Okay. Thank you again for being with me.
Thank you.
God bless.